So Mission Impossible 3 was directed by J.J. Abrams and once again features Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, as well as a few other faces including Ving Rhames, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Michelle Monaghan, Maggie Q, Kerry Russell, Simon Pegg, Lawrence Fishburne. This time around, Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, he is laying low. He has retired from IMF. He now has his fiancée named Julia, played by Michelle Monaghan, and he's, they're about to get married and such. And now, even despite the fact that he's been retired, he decides to take a mission that was called onto him and basically just say that, this is his last mission and then try to move on afterwards. So Mission Impossible 3, looking back on it, had a very tough development. It was in development hell for so long. So many directors were attached at one point. David Fincher was attached at one point and he dropped out. Joe Carnahan was attached at one point. He dropped out. Kenneth Branagh and Scarlett Johansson were supposed to appear in this movie, but both of them dropped out. Tom Cruise saw shows like Alias and Lost and was like, hey, I like this J.J. Abrams guy. Why don't we have this guy named J.J. Abrams make his directorial debut with Mission Impossible 3? And so he was brought in, and then they filmed the movie, and then sometime between when they filmed it and before it was released, South Park released that controversial Tom Cruise Scientology episode, and he was like, maybe I don't want to promote this movie after all, because they did this and everything, and eventually Mission Impossible 3 came and went, and I'm not going to try to talk about all that, but I kind of wanted to give a backstory on it. So I want to talk about it as a movie as a whole rather than what led to it. As a movie, it's fine. It's passable. I think it's as good as Mission Impossible 1, definitely better than Mission Impossible 2, but not as good as some of the later Mission Impossible movies. I feel like starting with this movie, each franchise entry in the franchise has just gotten better and better. And I think, you can't get any lower than Mission Impossible 2, but I don't think this is as good as some of the later ones. So, what works in this movie? Well, Tom Cruise is usually really good in this role. I do think he's really good in the action scenes as well as his emotional scenes in this movie. I do think they're really well done. Philip Seymour Hoffman's a pretty good villain in this movie. I would honestly say he was my favorite villain in any Mission Impossible movie. I felt he was intimidating. I felt he was creepy. I felt he was really good. I also really like that scene in the bathroom where it's Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise is in the bathroom dressed up as Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he's kind of like, hey, what's going on here? This is weird. And it's like, he doesn't even say anything in those scenes. It's just absolutely hilarious to me. And I kind of like the back and forth that he has with Tom Cruise in this movie. It's really well done. Philip Seymour Hoffman was a great actor, and this may be weird, this is the first time I'm talking about him. He was a great actor, no matter what movie he was in, whether it was a movie like The Master or Capote, even something like this, or even Along Came Polly. That is a terrible movie, but he is really funny in that movie, and I kind of gave it a pass. It's okay, Philip Seymour Hoffman was great in this movie. And, I thought he was really great in this movie, too. The other actors don't really have too much to do. I'll get to that in a bit. I also kind of like how, unlike Mission Impossible 2, we go back to the team rather than just simply, just Tom Cruise, which was just Mission Impossible 2. We have Simon Pegg involved with this. You have Maggie Q, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers are all involved with this. They're fine. I don't think they're as good as the team from Mission Impossible 1 or the teams in some of the later movies. But at least it shows that, Ethan Hunt is just not this, one-man army. He can't do it all on its own. And I also really like how it's constantly moving throughout the entire movie. You have all this action that's going on. You have all this, character development, too. And it's nothing seems like it needed to be cut, honestly. I do like the fact that it's just constantly moving and it just constantly keeps moving forward. And also, I like the darker tone overall. This movie is a lot darker than the first two movies, and I feel like it actually works. The villain's a bit darker than the last movie. He is, intimidating. He is frightening, and I wouldn't want to deal with him. And I do feel like the tone matches the movie overall. But even though it is darker than the other two movies at this point, it's still fun. The banter between some of the stars is really good. They still managed to crack a few jokes here and there. There are definitely some fun moments again, the scene in the bathroom with two Philip Seymour Hoffmans. And some of the action's pretty good. There's a long take of him running, which, yeah, Tom Cruise runs a lot, but hey, if he does it well, I don't mind it so much. There's also, the action's a little bit more intense, too, at times. He kind of gets thrown a lot, and it's okay, that actually looks like it hurt. I'm knowing the stuff that Tom Cruise has done in his career, I'm yeah, he probably did that. And, I respect Tom Cruise as an actor and a stunt person and being all this person and being this person who's I want to make sure I give the best performance possible. And movies like this definitely show it. So what don't I like in this movie? Well, even though there's a lot of intense action in this movie, they have a lot of shaky cam in this movie. I don't know why they went with the shaky cam angle. Maybe because they were trying to keep it to PG-13, but a lot of times they were just shaking the camera back and forth, and I'm why. I kind of want to see what's going on here. Like, you're not going to do that. And also, I wish there was kind of a bit more of like the actual team. Like, even though like he doesn't work by himself in this movie, I kind of wish we kind of knew a little bit more about them. And also, I kind of wanted more out of some of the other characters. Ving Rhames as Luther Stickle, he's a great addition to the team, and he's been in every Mission Impossible movie besides Tom Cruise. I kind of wish he had a bit more to do in this one. Simon Pegg, I wish he had a bit more to do. Maggie Q, a little bit more to do. Even Michelle Monaghan, who plays Ethan's fiance Julia, I wish she had more to do. I wish I kind of knew her character a lot more, but oh well. I guess all we know is that she has a brother that's played by Aaron Paul of all people. I didn't remember that when I watched it recently. And also, I felt like there were a few predictable twists in this movie, like the traitor played by Billy Crudup. I felt like it was just kind of obvious that there was going to be a traitor. It's like, you just basically just redid Mission Impossible 1 again, didn't you? Oh well. And also, given that it's from J.J. Abrams, he mostly worked in television at the point. Again, he worked on Lost, he worked on Alias. You can definitely tell that he's trying to balance a lot of stories throughout it. Like, Lawrence Fishburne's involved in the movie, and you kind of aren't sure if he's the traitor or not, or if he's like, actually trying to help. It's kind of weird. Even though Lawrence Fishburne does give a good performance, it's like you kind of just juggled a lot of these, and it felt like it was fine when it's just being an intense action movie, and when it was just Tom Cruise versus Philip Seymour Hoffman. So overall, Mission Impossible 3, I will say, is definitely better than Mission Impossible 2. About as good as Mission Impossible 1, but not nearly as good as some of the later ones, which I'll talk about very soon. The performances of Tom Cruise and Philip Seymour Hoffman are really good. I do like the darker tone overall, even though it still manages to be fun and exciting and action-packed, and I do like the team efforts, and I like how the fact that the pacing is decent. Even though I don't really like the shaky cam or some use of the characters and some obvious plot points, this is still an all-right entry. I'll give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what's your favorite Mission Impossible movie? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.